Throughout this VIP, I have enjoyed learning about many different facets of peace and ways to understand it. I've become particularly interested in the concept of peace building with regards to future peace. For me, this is how a theorized utopian future can be conceptualized. For most, when they consider utopia, they think of sweeping technological advancement, a symbiotic relationship with the Earth, and towering skyscrapers. However, I spent the VIP thinking about a realistic, modern utopia, not something out of fiction, but instead a next logical step for humanity. The literal definition of utopia comes from the Greek, meaning no place, which can be seen in the ideas of utopia being no particular place, but instead continuing as a concept. The most commonly understood definition comes from Thomas More's 1516 book, which describes an imaginary community or society that possesses near-perfect conditions for residence. The three pieces I selected to the library are emblematic of this. The first on graffiti and how placemaking impacts peace, the second on a fictional utopia, and the final one on realistic visions for urban planning in utopia. The first library edition discusses how graffiti can be seen as a resource for understanding peace in conflict-affected areas. Although not explicitly about utopian ideals, I believe placemaking is an important aspect of utopia. Despite being literally translated as no place, for me, place is integral to the study of peace and therefore in creating an ideal society, a utopia. The role of graffiti helps with peace building as it adds meaning to normally inconspicuous space. It directly spotlights what the residents think, feel, and any opinions they may have of either the conflict or peace building efforts. Conflict-based graffiti reflects past dynamics and conflicts, whereas peace-based graffiti shows a potential for change to be made. This image in particular, as referenced in the article, depicts graffiti on a UN buffer zone in Nicosia. The phrase, "Your wall cannot divide us," highlights how the Nicosian citizens believe that peace efforts must be amended. The second piece is a chapter from H.G. Wells's 1905 book, A Modern Utopia, titled Failure in Modern Utopia. He discusses different ways in which a utopian society should be run, while also employing another tactic which I've been researching over the course of the VIP, that being useful fiction. The role of fiction can be seen as integral to peace building, as imagined futures and scenarios can help to imagine feasible possibilities. Wells's chapter explores the future through a fictional lens, whereby utopia does not eliminate competition, but instead ensures equal standings for all humanity. It does not remove failure, but instead makes failures less extreme. A person should not want for food, shelter, clean water, clothing, or be indebted, but failing can still occur. Wells goes on to describe how a world with no work would lead to boredom and idleness, and how although some modern-day depictions of utopia revolve around the ideas of no work, it is necessary to feel a sense of purpose. The caveat is that the work should be engaging and not menial, and everyone should have the opportunity to work how they want. This semi-fictional piece outlines, even in a utopia, it is important to consider a functioning, realistic society. Imagining an unrealistic society is detrimental to peace studies, as it provides impractical solutions. The third and final entry I submitted to the library is about an idea of a utopian model as a lens to look at existing and future urban spaces. The author argues against the utopian model being applied to cities, yet states that there is still a place for utopianism in urban planning. His main idea hinges on the multiplicity of utopias, as one single utopia cannot be seen as a constantly evolving concept. The traditional utopian model is too static and fixed for an ever-changing world, but using it as a lens instead allows for nuance and for peace building to occur. The author sets out two main functions for utopian thinking in urban planning. One, to use utopian models as a laboratory, as a lab to think about the future, to innovate and improve. The second, to present catastrophic scenarios and dystopian futures in order to educate citizens. Both of these are good reasons to bring utopia into discussions of urban planning. However, it should not be the only factor in play. I wanted to briefly touch upon what I researched for my museum entry of the VIP, which was a case study of Italian town Palmanovo, which was built with More's ideas of utopia in mind, with military inequality at the forefront of urban planning. However, this can be seen as an almost failed utopia as the government struggled to get people to move into this idyllic town. It is in this way that the journal article, A Role of Utopia for the Design of Future Cities, Utopian Urban Planning Literature, succeeds, as it highlights the importance of not merely relying on an idealistic revision of a future for peace building, but instead basing on what is already there and building upon them. The 3 entries I made in the library has highlighted how peace building for our future is a tumultuous job. While classical utopian models consider wealth, education, and health, a more modern society would include things such as sustainable development, globalization, gender equality, and diversity, as well as the 3 aforementioned. Using wells of work, it is clear that a modern utopia should not be without work, but instead have a multitude of choices. A modern utopia should not be about failures, but instead have a much less extreme version of flaws. A modern utopia must include pluralism and tolerance. These stipulations emphasize how difficult it is to reach what might be considered as an ideal society. The first and final articles underline the importance of listening to what the current population thinks rather than just going off of theories.